the Desert Tiger Podcast.
Hello.
Hello, Ben. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I mean, it's the heat wave has finally broken here in BC. Well, I mean, the ridiculous part of it. So, I survived it, thankfully. So, doing all right.
That's good. Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't realize how hot it was there, and then kind of came here. And I was like, oh yeah, it's getting toasty out there.
Yeah, no, I think yesterday hit about a solid 49 degrees here in Kamloops. So,
Yeah. Kamloops is where you're out of.
yes.
Yeah, it gets pretty toasty there too because it's deserty, right?
It is very much a desert. A lot of people actually don't realize that, but it gets super dry. Like, actually, Lytton, which is like 2 hours away from us, is like hit pretty much just under 50 degrees yesterday in the last couple days too. And they just had a massive fire yesterday. Like, community is just got rocked by this massive fire, and it just took off because everything was so dry.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's so dry and hot. You just like you don't even have like energy to cry.
It evaporates immediately.
I've been crying nonstop, and it's just can't even see it.
I wish I could cry. I'm crying because I can't even cry. You've been doing good, handling everything all right?
Yeah, all right, not too bad. I mean, it was weird getting on a Zoom call. I was like hearing the audio like test and stuff like that. Just reminded me of like the early pandemic days of like this is what we gotta do. It's like yeah, the weird sounds. It's like when you have a certain alarm for a really long time, or an album that you listen to during a relationship and you break up and then you hear that album. That's what Zoom calls are going to be to a lot of people one day.
That quarantine PS or PTSD going on.
Yeah, big time. But yeah, it's doing okay. Just hammering out a giant heart out of I found this giant piece of wood in a wood bin near my house. I almost blew my knee out carrying it. It was so heavy.
But you're making it into a heart.
Yeah, I'm carving. It would be easier to take the outsides of it and make a heart, but instead I'm carving the inside of it. I don't even know why. I just was staring at it and like, what are you gonna do with this? I guess make a heart out of it.
See what it turns into. See how it goes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Gotta try. Gotta try.
Like wood kindling, at least like all the little pieces, fire starters. So it worked for it, I guess.
Yeah, it's got a purpose there, a double purpose there then, I guess. Good thing on you for thinking on how to make use with all of the pieces of this.
It's kind of what you got to do. You got to look at all sides of it and, figure it out, I guess.
Exactly. There's many sides to a story, so.
Yeah.
We're here to get your side of the story going into this upcoming album here. Love is for Lovers. Are you ready to dive into things here today?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right, awesome. I'm excited for it. So, of course, I want to lay a little bit of a foundation for the album. So, for the listeners that are listening, we just mentioned, of course, we're coming out of the quarantine here. And in 2020, you released an entire album, 10 tracks, on just basically quarantine songs. So, a very fun album, very much based on what was happening at the time, what we were dealing with. So, what was it like to sort of do that album and then coming out of something that was just sort of that piece of moment, that piece of time that we were living into? And then what were you trying to move into and capture after that?
Well, it was a lot of lyric writing. I think I probably wrote a full notebook worth of stuff in that time. With quarantine, we were on tour with Real Mackenzies and we had a week left and we were kind of like, what are we going to do with this week? Like we're still on band time. So, let's get to work. And so we had decided that we would just collectively write and record and release this album in 7 days. And it was a pretty intense slog. I was still going to work and then I would kind of come up with some ideas for lyrics, I'd listen to the melody in the day and then go straight to the basement and try and lay down the vocals for that and figure out the actual words. And uh, my setup was pretty shitty. I could hear like CBC radio playing in the background as I'm singing and picking up the signals. And I think if you listen to it close enough, you could probably hear it in the background. But it was interesting because with that information coming in to my ears as I'm singing, it's all COVID related and it's all like just in your face. And I think it was it was almost easier to come up with the lyrics because everything was so there. Um, it was a joke within itself of like seeing how shitty it was going to be and how people weren't taking it seriously. And uh, the crossover between coming out of that and kind of, I guess in a sense, we were working on Love is for Lovers prior to quarantine. We were demoing it. We were touring some of the songs, getting ready to record them properly. And quarantine kind of just snuck in there. We're like, let's do this first and then come back to Love is for Lovers. And I was kind of already writing a ton of lyrics for that at the time. It was interesting to see the transition of lyrics about love and relationships to love and relationships in a COVID era. And yeah, so sorry, I'm trying to keep on subject here. I don't know if I took my meds this morning.
No worries, brother. You're keeping good track. You're keeping good track.
Yeah, so it was with quarantine, it was so rapid fast and you didn't really have time to think about it. And Love is for Lovers, we maybe had too much time to think about it. And it kind of, because of that, we had demoed the songs maybe 2 or 3 times before they actually came to the proper life form. And I think where we ended on it, I'm really happy with it. Like the amount of work that went into Love is for Lovers, leading up to it and to actually finally get it done, the trials and tribulations that came with it. It was actually more intense than writing and recording an album in 7 days, I'd say.
Just that amount of time to be able to think things through. And like you said, it sort of was a change where from like a regular album cycle where this time you had maybe a little bit more time to reflect. And I like how you mentioned there the relationships before the quarantine and then during, because the quarantine did put a strain on quite a few relationships as some people realized, I don't know if I can spend this much time with like the people inside of my house or whatever the situation happened to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, it also, in a sense, like made you kind of think like, who do I actually want to be around? Like, who do I want to, if I'm stuck in here and I can find happiness within and contain myself, you can kind of start seeing the different areas in your life that were bringing stress. Like there was obviously COVID stress, but you, for me anyway, you can kind of separate the outside world and be like, oh yeah, maybe I didn't really like that so much. And it kind of really, it gave me a lot of time to think about relationships and what they mean to me as well. So I think that also would have had an impact on Love is for Lovers as well. I think lyrically.
So it's not just the impact of relationships with love itself and people, it's also the relationships with our hobbies, the things that we do, maybe our jobs, just everything that we interact with.
Yeah, exactly. Just any little thing, depending on how you perceive it, can affect you, and it can affect everyone differently too. And kind of seeing, watching close ones struggle with an issue where it means so much to them, but for you, you can kind of just you can see the outside of the tunnel. You can see their problem and how to solve it, but you can't solve anything for anyone. And so in a lot of ways, watching people kind of struggle, cope with it, and yeah, like just kind of the evolution of it, like relationships, just I think a lot of things have changed. It'll be interesting, like to actually start going out in public again and seeing people because I mean I always wanted to sit in the back of the corner and not talk to anyone anyway. So like not much has changed for me, but I do miss people, and it'll be interesting to see how we kind of come back, I guess. But
Hmm. See how people like exactly how they come back and how they deal with things because we're actually going to be able to see the expression on people's faces for the first time in a long time and otherwise. And are some people just going to try and sink into the normal they had before, or some people going to like take lessons from this and maybe value their interactions with different individuals a little bit more, right?
yeah, and some people might have a lot of built up anger. People might have a lot of built up compassion. Some people might just be really lonely and need to see each other. So it'll be, I don't know, it's going to be an interesting new world. And I think trying to treat people with compassion and respect and with love, so it'll be, it'll be interesting.
Well, love is a very important energy, and everybody deserves the opportunity to feel the embrace of love itself. So let's dive a little bit into Love is for Lovers here a little bit further. So, the album title and the title track, from my research, from what I can see, it's sort of inspired by a little bit of a hate towards the idea of love that maybe you were seeing in some of your own work and some of like the own production and of course inside of our own world.
Yeah, definitely. It was more of a stand against. I mean, it's an obvious message that yes, love is for lovers, but it was a stand against the oppressing side of it. That uh, the hatred that comes towards it, where people are told they cannot be in love with a man or a different race, genders, and just seeing the kind of encroachment on people's rights. And that's the message, is to stand up against that. It's to be like, no, like this is okay. We are all one. It doesn't matter who we are. Let's just, it's, so it's not just the obvious statement. I saw I saw a really short interview of Love is for Lovers. It said really simple lyrics, and I laughed. I was just like, oh man, like I don't know if it's that simple. I think there's a lot of different meanings to it, and it's up to interpretation. I know that I have my own meanings of it, but I also notice that anytime that I sing a song, it can change the feeling, but the words can be the exact same. And so it's more, it's not simple. There's a lot of messages going on, and it's supposed to make you think. And I think you don't want to overcomplicate things because then people just, they're not thinking about it. The message isn't actually coming across, but it's not simple.
Well, and sometimes some people maybe aren't listening for what exactly it is that you're trying to get across because they look at it and oh, okay, it's just love. Love is for love. All right. Oh yeah, no, it's an obvious thing. Whereas, like you say, you're trying to go into the fact that there's been disparity towards various love and relationships, whether it is between races, genders, whatever it happens to be. And It's been going on for a long time, whether it happens to be through law, religion, whatever the force that happens to be trying to put that negative light onto what is love, what should be positive, and what everybody, like we have said, should be able to feel. It's exactly that. Is there has been a lot of pressure in the world to try and make love one thing when really love is everything.
Yeah, it becomes, it's not just like an emotion towards somebody. It is compassion to humanity and environment, to everything around you. Like, I don't know, maybe I watched too much Star Trek and was like, yeah, we can definitely have an ideal world where everyone has the same rights. But even in that, they travel to places that are still struggling, and they try and teach that message in all these episodes. And so, nothing can be utopian, but I think the goal is to strive for betterness in humanity towards each other, and that does come with love for yourself, love for the people around you, but also, you know, uh, when there are people trying to hurt other people, it's good to stand up against it. And you don't have to be violent, but there needs to be change.
Absolutely. It's absolutely true. And we can learn and we can grow from this past. And from there, we can maybe create a world that's a little more loving, a little more embracing, and that way, a little more respecting for everybody that is a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'd like to see anyway. If it happens, we'll see. All you can do is try individually, I guess, right?
Exactly. It happens. It happens. And like we said earlier, some people aren't exactly trying to listen for that message. They have their own ideals, they have their own agendas, and hopefully with time they can learn too. But sometimes there's a little bit of a communication breakdown, and maybe that was a lame transition.
No, that was great.
But I want to talk about this first single that came off of this album as well, and the hilarious music video because I was laughing the entire time I was watching this thing.
Nice. Yeah, that was the video was a lot of fun. I've wanted to do an airplane video for a really long time. Um, and this one just kind of presented itself with the opportunity. Uh, and the props were a lot of fun to make. Building the cage was super fun. I was actually building it, and my neighbor came over and asked me, like, "Oh, what are you working on?" And I'm like, "Oh, just building a cage." And I kind of realized, like, that's a weird thing to say to your neighbor. Like, I don't even know the guy, you know? And then I was trying to saw it and make it really thin, and my saw was just, it wasn't working. So I had to ask him if I could borrow a saw the next day, to build my cage. And yeah, he must have just thought I was the weirdest guy. I don't know. Welcome to the neighborhood, I guess. Uh, but yeah, the video, it was really fun to actually get in a giant room and have the area to actually move, and the freedom. Jesse Nash did a really great job, like putting stuff together. Um, I spent hours looking up stuff that we'd be using in the background. We didn't use any of it, but a lot of time went into it. Um, and yeah, the theme of it too is communication breakdown. Would being like, you want to care for somebody, but you just can't get your words out. Like when you are so stuck in anger towards somebody, you can't let go of something. There's no way to move forward, and it's just, it's not just the communication breakdown. It's like everything breaks down. Like it all just falls apart if you can't talk, if you can't figure out your shit together or with somebody. You can't. You're not only just letting something stop there. You're also just holding yourself back from from not being able to move forward, and that becomes on you. It's that cycle, and you can start resenting somebody because you're holding on to something, and it becomes, your problem. But then it's just like big old communication breakdown. It's good to talk.
Absolutely. It's good to actually be able to do exactly that. Communicate, discuss, and that's a big part of respecting other people as well, is being able to hear their experiences, what they've gone through, what their opinions are, and once again, learn from these things, grow from these things.
Definitely. And I think learning about your own emotions, like there's so many different emotions. And some people just kind of have happiness and anger, and they don't know or won't admit that they're sad. So that turns to anger. Uh, they could be jealous, but that turns into anger. Like all these little things without actually learning and thinking about what you're feeling. It's hard to be able to even like comprehend what somebody else might be thinking and feeling. And so it's a lot of personal growth that needs to happen to make those things happen.
Very insightful. Very insightful. I enjoy that. And I love how, with that insightful song, we can end up getting a very fun music video as well, because we should be able to have fun while we're on this journey as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's important to take things like think about them heavily, but also take them lighthearted, not to weigh you down. And I think having the idea with that video is like keep getting stuck into and thrown into these situations where like there's just no way out. There's nothing you can do, and you just keep like circling and but to find the good part of it, like okay, well, there's always something to laugh at. There's something here that can make me smile. I just got to look for it. And I think, having the serious topic of that, even though it's not that serious, it is, it's something to think about. And so, to team it up, pair it up with a big gorilla whipping these miserable humans that in this cage that is just about to fall over as soon as you blow on it. Uh, it's fun. It was a good time.
Ah, fantastic. Good time indeed. And especially when you say that this album process, this crafting process may have been the most difficult, at least difficult more than that 7 day stretch. So now that we're finally getting to that time where the album is going to be released, what does it feel like to finally, after pretty much 2 years probably of trying to put this together and out, what is it like to finally be able to have it ready to be out into the world?
Well, I will say that I'm glad that I spent those 2 years in therapy. uh, it's got helped me get to a point where I can accept a lot of the stuff that has come with it, and deal with it. To me personally, to see it finally come out, it feels like the hard work was worth it. It deserved to me to come out and see the light of day, and to be properly done, to like actually, not just put it out and be like, hey, well, it's out. Like I still believe that it's worth listening to, and I still believe the album is important to me. I don't know if other people care about it. You like the video, so somebody likes it. Um, but yeah, it is nice to finally see something come together, and holding it in your hands and being like, oh yeah, like we did this. Took a long time. There was like many casualties on the way, but it's just it feels good. I'm happy to finally have it, and it also doesn't it was weird. Like when I got the record, usually I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go home and listen to this right away. And I'm really excited. And this one I was just like, is this actually here right now? Like, is it? It's gonna, you know, make sure like, is this real right now? So it's different. And mostly been like caught up on the side of trying to promote it. And so it still hasn't really like set in that it's like, oh yeah, like this is here. I think maybe when we start playing shows again and when things kind of settle down and the dust is settled, I'll be able to appreciate it even more. But right now I'm just very grateful to see it. I'm thankful for everyone who's put in time and energy towards it. So yeah, it brings up a lot of different emotions, I guess.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And as you say, it'll would be nice to be able to play it live as well, and hopefully, potentially, it's things are looking like we might finally get there too. So you might have that opportunity sooner than later.
Yeah, it's weird kind of seeing some offers start to come in and even that is like, well, is this real? Is this possible? Like, I want to say yes, but it's hard to believe it yet. And I also, you know, I want things to start launching up and going again. I want to see it. I know that so many people desperately need it. Uh, but it's also, I still kind of think about it like in the background, like I'm probably still going to be wearing masks a lot of the time. There's a lot of habits that I'll probably carry forward just to make sure that other people are safe. But I really want to see it. So yeah, getting offers in, it's weird. Like, where are we? What did the last like year just happen? Like, like what's going on?
It'll definitely be interesting because it's going to be hard to gauge where are the fans at, what are the different like everybody at, and it's one thing that I was talking to about with somebody is like some people might even like need breaks where like where like they'd have the smoke deck or you go outside because you have to like cool down from the crowd or whatever. There's going to be some people who are just going to like I haven't been around this many people in a long time and I just need to go outside for a second and just like all right, I have space. I have space.
Yeah, it'll be and like obviously like I would hope that there'd be no more spitting like on bands or bands spitting into the crowd. I definitely won't be throwing any open water bottles into the crowd anymore. That's for sure. But yeah,
Yeah, maybe be a little more, like you said before, a little more responsible with how we interact with everybody. But hopefully, as time goes on and if things do progress and it does become safe, hopefully we can get to a point where we're not spitting on people, but we're still having a good time interacting with each other and dancing and partying.
yeah.
All right, Ben Disaster. I have had a blast chatting here, and I want to thank you so very much for joining me on the Desert Tiger podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much for checking out the music, and I'm sure we'll touch base again soon.